Hello, I'm Alistair, Martyres, a Senior Implementation Portfolio Manager at Russell Investments. I manage the 3 Australian fixed income ETFs. I'm here to discuss recent market action, talk about the last index reconstitution of our ETFs, and our outlook for the domestic fixed income market. The Australian economy is facing an unprecedented challenge as governments here and abroad put in place policies to flatten the curve of the coronavirus. This is foremost a health crisis, but it has quickly become an economic crisis that has substantial impacts on individuals and families as businesses close and jobs are lost. As COVID-19 spread around the world, market after market went into disarray. Central bankers have responded to the shock to growth by following essentially the same playbook, cutting interest rates to zero as rapidly as possible, followed up with quantitative easing and other programs to support financial markets. With a synchronized economic collapse leading to policy convergence, government bond yields have plunged worldwide. In particular, the RBA cut rates to 50 basis points on the 3rd of March, only to cut them again to 25 basis points on the 19th of March and begin QE. The RBA yield curve control program targets a 3-year bond rate at around 25 basis points, but it will buy whatever it needs in order to encourage the market to get close to that rate. If the market is trading in a disorderly way, it will buy any term, along with linkers and/or semi-government bonds. The mandate is unlimited, as are the volumes it can buy, and a time frame over which it can operate. The RBA chose to target the 3-year point on the bond curve because of its importance as a benchmark rate in financial markets and its role in funding across much of the Australian economy. The board also noted that in targeting the 3-year rate, that would also be consistent with the expectation that the cash rate would remain at a very low level for several years. Australia's AAA S&P sovereign rating will come under renewed monitoring over coming weeks. The heightened uncertainties around the economic impacts of the COVID-19 virus, combined with the significant federal fiscal response to be largely debt-funded, are all central to concerns. However, Australia's budget and national balance sheet entered into the crisis with the flexibility and capacity to meet the challenges of the health crisis. During the last month, we've seen liquidity conditions alter across the spectrum from government bonds to corporate credit. Although our credit market, being mostly investment grade, is of a higher credit quality than the US, it experienced considerable strain as investors rushed to sell bonds into a market where there's hardly any liquidity, with materially increased spreads. Last quarterly index reconstitution for the government bond ETF, there were no changes. For the state government bond ETF, there were 3 leavers and 3 joiners, with the new index adding just under half a year of duration, moving from 3.9 to 4.4 years. We seamlessly executed this rebalance to the new index. For the corporate bond ETF, 3 bonds joined and 3 left the index, with the index duration at the time moving from 3.4 to 3.8 years. We were able to source a full allocation to one of the new joiners, ANZ August 24s. We have slowly started to build a position in the newly added Westpac security as supply avails in the secondary market, and have purchased a slightly longer dated NAB bond to help maintain duration in line with the index. As highlighted in orange below, the duration of the ETF at 3.69 years is very much in line with the index, and our creditor exposure is of a similar profile to the index. The difference and the challenge in this crisis versus 2008 is that we are not in the process of clearing overextended housing risks or building resilience into bank funding profiles. This crisis is one that governments around the world have chosen to impose on their own economies for the good of public health and safety. Almost every single action that governments around the world are taking in response to COVID-19 is GDP negative. What that means is that no matter what measures are being proposed by central banks to help the market, they are only going to soften the economic blow that is now happening. They can't stop it and they can't reverse it. They can only triage its impact. Control of the virus and the lifting of quarantine and movement restrictions are the only true stabilising forces that markets will meaningfully respond to. Governor Lowe knows this, and so the RBA's job is to support the triage process and help to minimise the economic damage and harm that is coming. We continue to expect the economy to remain shut until the virus is contained, and we expect markets to remain unsettled until the economy reopens. No one really knows what a sudden stop in economic activity will look like, and as such there is a wide range of forecasts. Markets are pricing an extended slump in growth. The forward risk-free yields discount very low rates even 5 years out. The Australian government will be ramping up its debt issuance plans to finance hundreds of billions of dollars in support. The consequence is that the world will be flooded with sovereign and semi-sovereign bonds, and this ramp up in supply will force longer-dated bond yields higher. I hope you have found this update beneficial, and thank you for your